Good evening and a warm welcome to Big Budget Business, where we highlight prolific individuals making strides in their respective fields. Today, we are speaking to the head of investment banking at Stanbic Bank Botswana, Tumi Mmolawa. Tumi, it's a pleasure having you on Big Budget Business.
Thank you so much for the invite. I'm happy to be with you today.
Wonderful, wonderful. Maybe give us your backstory. Who is Tumi Mmolawa? Talk to us about your career in the banking industry and perhaps your current role in the organization.
Sure. As you have introduced me, my name is Tumi Mmolawa and I head up investment banking at Stanbic Bank Botswana. I'm a qualified chartered accountant and have been in the banking industry for more than 12 years now. Yes. So our division is part of wholesale client of Stanbic Bank Botswana, and what we do, we basically help clients on their capex decisions, and also we raise funding for clients on their behalf, and we also have an advisory arm that looks at arranging debt capital markets for our clients, and also mergers and acquisitions or equity raising mandates. So that would sit with me at my desk, yeah.
Oh, all right. CapEx, in this case, being capital expenditure.
Correct.
All right. Okay. No, that's great. Quite a comprehensive background there. Let's get into the issue of this is sort of in continuation with what we had started talking about, infrastructure finance, property, not property rather, but public-private partnerships, right? Stanbic Bank recently hosted an infrastructure development webinar. What exactly was this about?
That was actually a fantastic webinar for us. We tried something different post the pandemic as everybody was at home, working from home. So we thought, let's try something different, where we got in a studio and got to invite a couple of keynote speakers. So the theme for our webinar was a conversation on public-private partnership as a vehicle to drive infrastructure funding in Botswana.
Okay.
So this resonated a lot with our purpose at Stanbic Bank Botswana, being that Botswana is our home and we drive her growth. So as you can imagine, I mean, any infrastructure development in any economy boosts the economy,
Absolutely.
Creates jobs, facilitates exports and imports into the country. So for us at Stanbic Bank Botswana, it was very important to have expertise around the table to talk about how do we actually expedite the infrastructure funding in Botswana. So as you know, the government can do it alone, and in the past this has always been a government-led initiative, but now it's become very imperative that we as private sectors have to come in, roll up our sleeves and say, where do we assist? So we can't just sit back and say we need roads, we need rail. No, we need to say we are here. How do we assist? So it was quite a nice webinar with a mix of different stakeholders in it, and it was imperative for us to make sure that we had all the stakeholders in the value chain of a PPP model, so that we start the conversation and help each other see where the roadblocks are and help each other think about what's next.
Wonderful. I like what you highlighted there, that you drive Botswana's growth. Excuse me. And also you did mention that this is collaborative effort.
Correct.
So what you did was pull together stakeholders from different sectors and see how you can work together, because it's not like a one man is an island thing.
Agreed.
Absolutely, absolutely. Ladies and gentlemen, we are speaking to the head of investment banking at Stanbic Bank Botswana, Tumi Mmolawa, and she is speaking to us about infrastructure financing and development, as well as public-private partnerships. Please note that we've posted a link in the comments section that you can use if you would like to call in and ask any questions. If you have comments or questions, please post them in the comments section, and you could win yourself a Stanbic Bank hamper. So now that we're at it, let's talk about this aspect of infrastructure development and financing. You did say that if someone wants to build road, rail, it's a collaborative effort and everything. But let's talk about something that was unprecedented for all of us, which is the corona pandemic. How would you say that affected your operations from the infrastructure financing and Triple P perspective?
Yeah, so I mean, as highlighted also by the Triple P office at our webinar, I mean, the delay in delivery of materials, the delay in contractors, the delay in investors having to go and do site visits. That definitely impacted because we couldn't get most of the stuff from either SA or overseas into Botswana. So that definitely impacted and delayed the infrastructure projects that the government had planned. So, and I mean, it's evident that even as a bank, we had to sit down with our clients and say, how do we assist? Where clients couldn't, afford to pay us back, we had to talk about restructures to say, how do we help you? We know the tourism was the most affected one in Botswana, and as you can imagine, we had to sit around the table and say, come up with structures that could help our clients be able to still be afloat, but also know that, we are there, we can help you. And we did a lot of that with our clients, to help them through the pandemic times.
Okay, wonderful. So I take it your bank had some measures that they've taken, and there were some learnings, obviously, from that. Okay, now maybe let's touch on Stanbic Bank's long-term strategy, specifically with respect to investment banking. You did say that Botswana is your home, and you drive her growth, right?
Correct.
So let's talk about your long-term strategy with relation to, particularly in relation to investment banking.
Sure. So, I mean, our strategy is we continue and to talk to the public sector. We continue to have a thought leadership activities with the public sector, and with that, what it does is help the public sector understand that this has been done somewhere else. So I mean, really, railways and roads, they have been built in other countries, parts of the country. So for us, we continue to provide that information to the public sector, and then we continue to say we are here to help you. So we have models that have worked in the likes of Kenya, Mozambique, which I can talk to later, that, it's doable. So why can't we do it in Botswana? And I mean, those are some of the things that we're doing with government. We do have a strategy that we are following and will continue to pursue to make sure that we are aligned to where government wants to go. And we are there besides the government to hold their hand through it.
Okay, thank you so much for that. Ladies and gentlemen, a reminder here that we are speaking to Tumi Mmolawa, the head of investment banking at Stanbic Bank Botswana. So we're touching on infrastructure financing and development, as well as public-private partnerships. If you have any comments or questions, post them in the comments section. If you would like to call, there's a link that we've shared in the comments section. Click on that link and let's engage. You could win yourself a Stanbic Bank hamper full of some awesome goodies. Now, you did mention that this is really a collaborative effort with government specifically. Now, let's talk to this aspect of, in terms of this partnership. From the bank's perspective, where do you envisage that there will be growth within Botswana's economic sectors?
Gee, there's a lot that we have to do in Botswana. So obviously priority of the projects are led by the government, but I mean with no particular order, rail, road, water. I mean, water was evident with the COVID impact that we do need clean water. And I mean, we saw government actually reprioritizing some of the projects to make sure that they accelerate what's needed during the COVID pandemic. So I mean, power is another aspect where it's definitely needed. So, excuse me. So we have done, I mean, looked at IPPs in South Africa, for example, where, we are trying to help Botswana, the side, to say, how do we help you unlock with these sectors? ICT, I mean, you and I have spent the last 18 months at home, working from home. So definitely infrastructure funding was definitely needed to make sure that we've got enough fiber, strong network to make sure that we can continue with our daily work. So I mean, those are some of the sectors that definitely opportunities will come from and should be coming from for us to be able to develop Botswana.
Absolutely. No, thank you so much for that. At least we've gotten some insight with respect to the bank's perspective on where Botswana will be growing. Ladies and gentlemen, don't touch that dial. We're going to go for a 2-minute break and we will be right back. Don't touch that dial. right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Big Budget Business, where we highlight prolific individuals making strides in their respective fields. And we're speaking to the head of investment banking at Stanbic Bank Botswana, Tumi Mmolawa. So we've touched on issues relating to infrastructure financing and development, as well as public-private partnerships. And I can see we've got a comment here from an international viewer, Francis K. Tembo Kings, who says, connected from Zambia. Thank you very much for that, Francis K. Tembo Kings. It's great to have international viewership. So please take us back to this webinar that you hosted. And you did mention that it was a multi-stakeholder thing. Maybe let's speak to who some of these stakeholders were and how maybe they participated.
Yeah, sure. I mean, we had to ensure that we have the right people and also the decision makers for us to be able to start this conversation that we wanted to push from our side. So we had representation from Ministry of Finance, we had representation from the P office, and as I mentioned earlier on, I mean, this is a shared value. We as commercial banks can't do it alone. Absolutely. As you can imagine, I mean, infrastructure starts with greenfield. You have to get to bankability stage, and you have to get to a point where funders can come in and be able to know that this project is actually working and they can get paid. Mm-hmm. So for us, it was important to partner with development finance institutions whose mandate is actually infrastructure funding, and to also support government and hold their hand to make sure that they get these projects to bankability. So we had African Development Bank partnering with us around the table. Another important stakeholders that we had to have is the technical advisor. Oh, yes. So I'm sure most of you have had, I mean, through the process, it goes out to tender, we get technical advisor, they assess feasibility studies, and then only then does it come to the market to be financed. So it was important for us to also understand what does the technical advisor look for and how do we as commercial bank help them expedite the process. So we also had a representation from BPC because, as we all know, IPPs are the talk of the town now. So my wish for Botswana is to go green. We've got so much sun. We enjoy so much sun in Botswana. Yeah. I still don't understand why, we are not green. But we are honored, so we are coming. Wonderful.
Thank you so much. So I see, it was really a joint effort there. But maybe to take you back just a little bit, you did mention, was it greenfield and then bankability? Maybe just explain those terms for some of our viewers who might want to understand the greenfield aspect, the bankability aspect, the whole process over there.
Sure. So, I mean, greenfield, you've got an idea you think is going to sell, you talk to a couple of people. So we need to make sure that, your idea is actually commercially viable. So from then, I mean, we, as an investor, like I said, we've got different risk appetite. Yes. So you find that institutions like AFDB, they actually can hold your hand and take you through the process and make sure that they help you with funding, with advisory, and so do banks actually. So, but then it needs to be at a point where now you take it from an idea and then you get it into a commercially viable project.
Yes, of course.
And for that, we assess, we do models, we make sure that, if you say to us, fund me, there's a project, my first question to you is, how will I get paid? Right? So we need to go through the project, through the stages, and make sure that at the end of it, you'll be able to, pay back your loan, because we obviously have shareholders that we also need to make happy. And then, so basically we get it to that point where we say, now it's a project and we can actually launch and fund it. And then we get funders. So you get funders with different appetite, and then hence it's important for us to partner, because we don't all have the same appetite.
Absolutely.
And I mean, the collaboration between asset managers, between DFIs, commercial banks, it's very important and will definitely get us through the infrastructure development financing.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for that. We have an awesome comment here from Noma Googs, who says, women at the helm, always a fave. Kudos, Stanbic. Noma Googs, for being our first local contributor to the comment section. Congratulations. You have just won yourself an awesome Stanbic Bank hamper. So congratulations to you, Noma Googs. Please be sure to inbox the Black Network page. Right, so we have touched on the issue of greenfield bankability, how you collaborate with different stakeholders to make it a viable project and the like. Now, perhaps give us some success stories that we might, maybe the man on the street might identify with. Some success stories with respect to infrastructure financing and triple Ps.
So success stories. I came ready. I thought you might ask that question. Let me go to my long list of success stories.
We're here tonight. It's all good.
So on the success stories, I mean, closer to home is South Africa. So we know about the Gautrain. You jump on a flight, Air Botswana, you get to OR Tambo, you get a Gautrain to Sandton, to Rosebank, to Pretoria. That's a perfect example of a triple P funding method that we did. And I mean, our shareholder, Standard Bank Group, was the main leader in that. And we contributed 50% of the senior debt to that. We're in there and we're holding the government through the process to make sure that this is a success. So that's one success story of the PPP funding.
Okay.
And then bringing it to maybe on the railway, we've got the Nakala Railway and Port Corridor. That's the project in Mozambique and Malawi. So there it was a construction and rehabilitation of the railway lines, and part of the port were also rehabilitated. And the financing requirement for the project was about $5.1 billion US.
Oh, that's a significant
of debt,
amount.
and then with a debt of 2.73 billion that went into that project. I mean, for example, that project gives you an idea that, I mean, with railways, we are landlocked country, right?
Of course.
So it's very important for us to make sure that our railways and roads are up to scratch, right? Because that's the way we can go in other countries and get exports in as well. So it's important for every country to make sure that at least that infrastructure is on point.
Absolutely.
And then another success story, I mean, Mozambique. The story with the gas discovery in Mozambique, where thousands of jobs have been created and they continue to be created.
Absolutely.
And also revenue that goes to the government at the back of the gas. I mean, it's a massive story where we obviously were in there and we're still part of the Mozambique story. And I mean, if you want to see some of these success stories, we have them on our website. So you can click on our website and go under investment banking. There you will see some of the projects that we've done, either PPP or project finance or even sustainable finance projects. So we've got them on our website.
Wonderful. Ladies and gentlemen, we are speaking to Tumi Mmolawa, the head of investment banking at Stanbic Bank. So it's really quite interesting to see how the bank is contributing, especially for an economy like ours, which is landlocked. I think in terms of accessibility, triple Ps help a lot.
Yeah.
Absolutely. No, so it's really interesting what you guys are doing there. Now, let's talk about these services. How does one access them? Do I come perhaps as a syndicate with being in the private sector? Do I come as a syndicate with my group and then we come and we speak to you? Maybe syndicate might be more of a criminal word, but I think maybe conglomerate sounds a bit more sophisticated. Do we come to you guys and then tell you we would like to do this, or is it the governments that approach you? Who exactly is it? How do we access these services?
Okay, so there are two ways you can do this, right? So if it's a government-led project, it obviously comes through government.
Okay.
But if you are obviously interested in it, there's an RFP process, and if you are the bidder that's been chosen by the government, then you come talk to the banks to say, how do you finance me? So what's happening currently is there'll be an RFP process that's out. Bidders will go in and say, banks, how do you support me? So that when they go back to RFP process to respond to that, they do have a bank like ourselves standing behind them to say, we can finance you because we do believe in infrastructure development and we'll be here to help you out. And then secondly, there's any projects that you might think of where you think, let's say property building. So
Yes.
you're building, there is a need for houses in Botswana. Accommodation is a big need for us. So you're building houses and you've got a project, you've got a feasibility study, you are ready, you know that there is a market for that project. So you do come to us and then we assess that and we are able to also advise you on how best to do it. So those are the type of projects that we definitely look into, and we're able to hold your hand through the process and make sure that we get it through the system.
All right, wonderful. So I think perhaps in closing, we'd just like to know how can you be reached? Do you have a presence online, your branches? What do we do if we'd like to get in contact with you guys?
So we are based in more than 20 countries. I see there's someone from Zambia who's dialed in. I'm sure you do have experience from Stanbic Bank Zambia, and I hope you do bank with them. So just to your question, so we do have the website, we do have the social media, we've got Twitter, we've got LinkedIn, we've got Facebook, where you can contact us. Those accounts are monitored, and if there's a question or a need, we are able to assist you through those social media. And maybe if I can add on to your question, so most of what we do, what's topical for us, we really do advertise or at least post on our social media so that you're aware on what's topical for Stanbic Bank Botswana, where we can assist. And that's also another way of checking what's really going on, and then you can contribute and give us your views, give us your comments, and let us know if that's working for you. And if it's not, if there's anything that you want us to talk about, we are happy to take that into consideration.
Wonderful. Ladies and gentlemen, there we have it. That was Tumi Mmolawa, Head of Investment Banking at Stanbic Bank Botswana. It's been quite a pleasure having you in studio.
Thank you so much for having me.
Wonderful. Ladies and gentlemen, don't touch that dial. We'll be back after an ad break with our 2-minute tip. Right. Ladies and gentlemen, technological glitches there. It seems there were some comments that we didn't see, so we'll go back to them and revisit them. We have a comment here from Eunice Mpoloka, who says, well done, Stanbic. What timelines should we be looking at before we see such success stories in Botswana? So you did highlight the Gautrain and the like. What timelines before it happens here? Very great question.
Yeah, that's $1 million question, Eunice, and thanks for that. So as I alluded earlier on, so the thought leadership that we have undertaken as Stanbic is to try and push, the traction, to try and see the traction. So we are here to say to the government to say, we've been talking about the Francis Town Nata Road, Maung Mohembo Road, Mama Bula Lepalale Railway, Mosetse Gazangula Railway. We've been talking about those projects for years now. We know that they are part of the Triple P offers infrastructure funding. So part of our thought leadership to government is, how do we help you? How do we expedite these projects? There are projects that are needed in Botswana. Absolutely. The telehills, the storage facilities. Where are those projects? How do we help? So Eunice, to give you a short answer to that is that know that Stanbic is talking to the public sector. What my personal wish is, this is not Stanbic's wish, this is Tumi's wish now, is that for the government to say, private sector, you want a project. We've got 16, there's 16 projects listed on the PPP's website. Please go there and check those projects out. So we've got 16. So you want a project, here's one, here's two, go and do it, Wow. Let's trust you with these two projects, go and do it, and let's see how you deliver. That's my personal wish for government, to actually take us up on that, to say, do it, and then let's see how fast you can do it. I'd really welcome that challenge from the government.
Wonderful. I think your question was really food for thought there, Eunice Mpoloka, and congratulations for that thought-provoking question. You have won yourself an awesome Stanbic Bank hamper. All right, and we also have Segolame Taga here who says, great session, Tumi. Thank you for your engagement, Segolame Taga. You have also won yourself an awesome Stanbic Bank hamper. Thanks so much for the engagement, ladies and gentlemen. And let me thank you once again, Tumi, for being on our show. It's been highly insightful.
Thank you so much. I suppose if I've got a minute, do I have a minute?
Of course,
so
take it away.
For us, you might be sitting at home and wondering what's next for us. So we'll definitely continue in 2022 to talk to the government, to talk to the private sector, to talk to the PPP office to say, how do we help you? So it is in our best interest as a bank to see the growth and the development in Botswana.
Absolutely.
So please be sure that we are doing everything in our power to try and expedite, and where we can, we'll definitely push. We've got success stories that our shareholder has done in group, in other markets. Honestly, those can be done in Botswana, and there's no reason why we can't do it here at home.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you so much. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, at this point, we'll get to our 2-minute tip. And our 2-minute tip is really a section where we help young people in business navigate whatever business challenges that they're facing. Today, we're speaking to those young people who are perhaps in manufacturing. If you're a small business owner in manufacturing or production, you might want to understand the 3 basic methods of production. So your 3 basic methods of production: number 1, job production. Job production is simply where you have one specific product tailor-made, which you complete. It's usually unique. You complete that particular job before moving on to the next. So for instance, if you're a tailor in the fashion industry, chances are you'll be using job production. Number 2, batch production. Batch production is really where you produce your product in different batches or groups. An example here would be if you've opened your own bakery and you're baking 50 loaves at a time before you can move on to the next 50 loaves. And then number 3, flow production. Now this is more your large scale production, and we usually see this in the automotive industry. Here, the type of production, like I said, is large scale, and it usually flows on production lines, and it's a continuous process which enables the producer to produce as much as possible without stopping. So there we have it, young people. Those who would like to be, or those who are involved in manufacturing production, look into these types of production to see where you fit best. Number 1, job production. Number 2, flow production. And number 3, batch production. Ladies and gentlemen, it's been a wonderful show. Thank you so much for your time. As always, it's a pleasure having you view us. From me, Big Budget, and the team that makes it happen, Black Network, Moana Pictures, it's good night and God bless. And never forget that you were born for so much more.